All right, so hello again to everyone who is in the classroom and who will watch later in YouTube. So in this classroom, the topic is the Polerio defense. So this happens after the moves bishop c4, knight f6, and knight g5 is kind of the most aggressive try from white, but actually it's rather will be aggressive from black because black has to sacrifice a pawn here, d5, ed, knight a5, bishop b5. So yeah, this knight a5 is the Polerio defense, bishop b5, c6, takes, and here white has basically, three decent moves and one really bad move. Bishop a4 is really bad. I didn't even um, have game for that, I guess, so that's not a good move. Bishop can be easily exposed to queen's attack. Otherwise, bishop can retreat to d3 to e2, and the third move, which is actually getting very popular, and I had most games, I believe, with this move, is queen f3. So it's pinning the rook and protecting the bishop that way. And here in the course, we recommend rook to b8. So there are really millions of moves in this position for black. Protecting the pawn on c6 is fine with the queen, with the bishop. I guess h6 is a move as well. Really many options. So, but okay, rook b8. It looks very good because basically it ignores the threat from white, and actually bishop takes c6, which I would say is the most expected move, at the very least in online chess, is a mistake. Okay, so what is my personal opinion of b5 is that that was the original idea for the course, to make b5 work. Back then, like 2 years ago, when this whole thing started, this b5 looked like a good option, but I believe that white has to know only one or two moves, and the position is much easier for white then. So I don't want to say a stupid thing. I already forgot how is the line. So whether it's take first or immediately bishop f1, I don't know. I guess it's take first. Queen takes d5 and bishop f1. These moves are not so difficult to find, and as the line goes on, I believe it's probably fine for black, but the value of surprise is not enough for me to compensate for the practical problems. If white knows very little here, that was my main problem, then it's really difficult to achieve something great for black, besides maybe equalizing, but that's not the goal. So I believe knight a5 and this c6 is much more fighting and seems to be in a very good shape. So takes, queen f3, rook b8, and yeah, bishop c6 is a mistake. Knight takes c6, queen c6. White is up 2 pawns, but here comes very important move, knight to d7. So even though it's retreating the knight, it's attacking the g5 knight, and also bishop b7 is coming possibly to attack on g2, not speaking about the rook switching over to the 6th rank. So objectively, it's already a very dangerous position and bad position for white. And okay, this game proves it. So my opponent played d4, which is actually a good try because it may tempt black to react to this, but it's actually absolutely not important. Number of pawns here. Black's development is extremely important, so the move is bishop e7. Pawn doesn't matter, just quickly develop castle and basically win the game. My opponent played knight f3, played rook b6, queen a4. This is all normal and just short castle. So now white can take a third pawn, which he did. And I mean, the position is basically completely lost for white because king is in the middle, no development, and okay, here it's black's turn to try to create the threats. And okay, I didn't choose the correct move. I mean, I won very quickly. I can show the game just very quickly. So I played bishop b7, which looks normal. My opponent played knight d2, not allowing bishop takes f3. I played rook b4. He went queen a7. I played bishop c5, and I am down 4 pawns, but I am trapping the queen. He went queen a3, gave a check, and okay, basically the game was over here. Just won the queen, but okay, objectively there should be better moves than knight bd2. Not 100% sure what is that, maybe queen f4 or something like that, but in any case it would have been better to start with rook b4, which is quite typical for this line, just not to allow this queen to basically escape from the a file, or these squares where it can be easily trapped. So yeah, I mean, for example, if the queen would take a7, then black just plays bishop c5. Now the queen has to go to a8, and after queen b6, I believe this game is pretty much over with these threats coming. So okay, I looked at queen c6, then bishop b7, queen c3 only square, rook e4 check, king f1. And okay, there are many good ways for black, but this knight takes on e5 is pretty good because obviously it's not possible to take because queen d1. And yeah, otherwise like bishop a6, bishop b4, such moves are coming. The game is over. So yeah, this was just one example that why this bishop takes c6 is not good. I have to say that my opponent was much lower rated than me. He was around 1800 on leeches, but this game, what I am going to show now, is already 2700 opponent from chess.com, so much higher rated. And so game went same way, rook b8, and he also took on c6, queen c6, knight d7. He went d3. I believe it's already easier for black because ed4 is not a way to go wrong. So I just went bishop e7. He went knight e4, castle, castle. So it's this position may look like not so bad for white. Like it's not obvious what are the weaknesses, and okay, they castle, 2 pawns up, like what could be too bad? Knight is like blocking the diagonal, but this is, black doesn't have that many pawns, but what matters is here is the two f and e pawns. If those can go forward with the bishop in the long diagonal, it's just big danger. So I played rook b6, that's normally the way, first the rook and then the bishop to the long diagonal. So he went queen a4, I went bishop b7, knight bc3, it's trying to develop, and I go f5. Already not too many squares for this knight. He chose d2. I mean, going to g3 is not much better. I guess I can just I can go rook g6, for example, to put some more pressure on the g2 pawn. So he went to d2, and I went to b4, and probably in the case of in the case of knight g3 it would be the same actually, I guess. So he went queen a3, and now I took the g2 pawn, and basically that was the game. So king g2, rook g4 check, and yeah, he played this, but after queen a6, rook g4, he played d4, but since every bishop move is a checkmate, besides bishop h, I mean the long diagonal, so he resigned at the same time. So this is really not a good line for white. So what is better for white if they don't take this pawn, but go back with the bishop to d3? And okay, now bishop e7 was played, and Yeah, okay, again, this I believe it's highlighted in the course somewhere that, if the pieces would be a little bit differently placed, like, I believe the funniest example is if white goes bishop e2, which is also a lie. So basically, white has the right squares, but the wrong pieces. Bishop should be on g5, knight should be back on f3, and queen should be back on e2. And that would be kind of okay for white, I would say. But it's completely messed up. So yeah, it's also not such a great position. So bishop d7, sorry, bishop d3, bishop e7, and my opponent played knight to e4. So now I can ask you, maybe you can stop the video, or I give here like 1 minute if you have any move suggestion for black. Not a difficult move, but important for this basically whole Polerio defense, I would say. Okay, so if you found the move knight to d5, that's great. So the point is to, white is struggling with these pieces, and the point is to kick it away with f5 and then e4, so to start pushing these pawns. So I just played this, my opponent played knight e2 c3, so this knight is really making a lot of moves. I just castled, he also castled, and I played f5. And, generally when this thing happens, so the pawns are starting to move forward in the center, then black is doing extremely well, and this game was no exception to that. Here my opponent even sacrificed the piece with rook e1 and waiting for e4. I mean, he didn't have enough at all for the piece, but yeah, in general, even if he would move back the queen e4, followed by bishop d6, queen h4, knight f4, it's a horribly difficult position for white. So next game, so queen f3, rook b8, bishop d3. Okay, so yeah, actually this one I should have shown first, but okay, for IDS it doesn't really matter, to be honest. So the course is recommending bishop d6 in this position. And I pretty much in all my games played bishop e7, simply not knowing the line. I mean, bishop e7 is also an interesting move, but I mean that's I believe the main line most likely. But bishop d6 is maybe even more challenging for white, with the point that the bishop controls the g3 square. So it basically takes away one very important square from this queen, and other square is basically only e3 if the bishop arrives to g4. So one of the critical lines here, obviously, is knight c3, which is the main line against bishop e7, so that's why it's often played. But it's already very bad because there is bishop to g4. So now, assuming white doesn't want this queen g3 e4, then the queen goes to e3, and then a different motive but the same move, knight to d5, is very strong. So the point is that the knight is under attack. So white is pretty much forced to take here, and after cd, I mean, if this pawn structure it's created for black and the knight can just simply come back to c6, then this whole thing is even more dangerous with 3 pawns running in the center of the board, and white's pieces are still super awkward. So yeah, that's the main reason. This is the main line. I mean, in the course, this bishop d6. Okay, but anyway, bishop e7 is also playable, and again, one more, I believe, idea could be. So, for example, here, in this way that this game is going, here white had the chance of make a move like bishop f5, which of course, such move. I mean, again, this variation is not available in the bishop d6 move order, so. Yeah, that could be a difference. My opponent castled here. I played h6 and he went knight to e4. So again, I am giving you a minute, let's say, if you would like to guess what is the correct move here. But don't assume that it's easy. So actually, the move here is not obvious at all. So the idea is super obvious, but the move has to be precise. Okay, so obviously the thing in such position is that not to trade on e4 in general. Because if black would take on e4, it's very often helps only white, who has like a lot of pieces for the e4 square, and they can somehow organize some better setup. For example, now queen e4 obviously is very unpleasant with the double threat here, so taking is in general not happening too often, but especially in this position. But it still leaves I would say 4 knight moves as a decent option, with the typical idea of going f5. But the point is that, okay, let's say knight e8 is played. I mean, looks very not logical, threat on f5, but white has knight g3. And it's not so easy to get f5. Like, obviously it looks like it's a pin and everything, but it's really difficult to use this pin. Knight can jump away with a check. If the bishop gets there, also can get away with a check. So yeah, not easy. Same goes for knight d5 or knight d7. So here a very strong move would have been knight to h7. Knight g3 obviously to stop this move, and here knight to g5. That's the key idea. Knight is very good attacking the queen, and the queen cannot control the f5 square anymore. So it most likely goes to e2, and then black goes f5. Again, e pawn doesn't matter at all. I mean, if black can start an attack, then it's just very good. So queen takes e5, bishop d6, sending the queen back, f4, knight e4, let's say f3, and I analyzed up to this moment. Engine seriously prefers black, and I guess for a human it's even more difficult to come up with any reasonable defense in this position. But again, I emphasize that I messed up the line, so bishop e7 is not even the course, but maybe these games were not too bad anyway. Okay, so next game is about kind of weird move h4. Not happening that often, but it's quite interesting. So white doesn't want to remove the knight from g5, and therefore making it a little bit more difficult to castle, let's say, for For black, also in case of h6, they always want to meet it with queen h5 to put some pressure here. On g6, obviously sacrifice, and you know, just one way to get a very crazy position. So here, the main line is to play bishop e7, and after queen f3, play f5. Now white has to take it. I mean, it's not good to allow this move for free. Yeah, unfortunately, short castle would be really good, but unfortunately, bishop a7 is a check. So rook f8, queen h5 is the line, and I mean, this is a super crazy line. I have to say it's objectively an equal position, but it's very difficult to, I mean, to understand what is going on or to understand how to play. I mean, it's also probably a fun position to try. It is not good. The course's idea to make it a little bit better for black, and for that reason, bishop d6 is the move. Also, I believe it's worth mentioning some really nice idea from white that after f5, which is also quite logical move, you know, very often e4, and white has this nice move of bishop e2. So the bishop is much better on e2 than on d3 because now the pawn can go there, and it will be terribly difficult to play h6 because the bishop is coming to h5. So that's also not so good. Bishop d6 was played, I believe, only in one game. Even that was correspondence game, so pretty much unknown move. The idea is that the queen can protect on f7 in case of queen f3. So for example, in the line queen f3, black plays queen to e7, and you know, it in some cases it can get very similar to the mess which I showed, because if eventually black goes f5, bishop f5, rook f8, you know, this piece sacrifice line could be very similar, but I believe slight improvement for black, that the queen is on e7, and yeah, it's a little bit different. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but yeah, it's a little bit different, and I believe a little bit better for black to have it like this. And first and foremost, white has to find a move here which they don't have to do in the case of bishop e7 variation. That basically a straightforward way to craziness. So for example, you can see in this game, again, my opponent is 27, 2800. He plays knight to c3. I play h6. And he goes queen h5. You know, this is the typical way to play with white against h6, but it's just not good here. I castled. Okay, now he took on d5 and went for the two pieces versus rook and couple of pawns, actually 3 pawns even. But I played bishop b7, queen d3, e4, bishop b5, and okay, we reached an interesting position, which is actually not that interesting. Because the computer evaluates it as a massively better position for black, which is not really a huge surprise, I would say, because obviously this extra material is not really in the game. And I mean, you know, past pawns at this stage of the game are like a little bit less important than potential attacking chances against the king. And okay, the game ended in a weird way here. I managed to play knight c6 in this position, and I resigned after queen takes b7, actually without waiting for queen takes b7. So that was not good, but what is unbelievable to me is that for some reason this computer is saying queen e7 in my analysis, and I just put it, okay, very logical move, you want to bring the rook and so on, but okay, now I just see it that this knight is hanging, so Is it possible that the computer is so strong that this position was the goal to? Uh, wait, maybe e3 is the no. I am sorry, I don't know. I really like unless I like the cloud engine normally is not stupid. So either I misread the move and it's queen c7, which is possible, or it's your homework to check why this queen e7 is brilliant. I didn't see the knight is hanging. And maybe it's really just rook f8, but this is like unbelievably amazing if it's the case. I mean, not impossible. These pawns are not moving anywhere. Bishop c5 is a threat, but I mean, giving up the knight for free. Okay, this I will check myself as well. But in any case, there are other moves as well. So yeah, for example, as I said, queen c7 is quite a human way, and bringing the knight back doesn't look too bad. Okay, so next game is already the main line nowadays. Is moving the bishop back to d3, which looks very weird, but once we understand that black's main idea is to play h6 and e4 to gain tempo and gain space in that way, then it's already somewhat understandable. So if black would play h6, then white is going knight e4. And yeah, this is not so easy. Not so easy. So basically, the main line is knight to d5, which is also the course's recommendation, knight f3, bishop d6, short castle. So this is pretty normal position, and here like white has to play rook e1, I believe. That's the main line, and for a good reason. I mean, white has to put pressure on the e-pawn and not allow black to really push f5 and e4 in the center. But this is exactly what my opponent did. So played c3, which is a super slow move. The idea is to maybe go b4 at some moment and then bishop c4. I mean, of course, that would be a good square for the bishop, but it's just way too slow. Unfortunately, I immediately returned the favor by playing bishop g4, which is a normal move, but it's just so much important to push the pawns that I had to play f5 without any hesitation. And if my opponent goes b4, then again, I would say it happens quite a lot. It also shown in some lines in the course that when b4 is happening, knight b7 is not the favorite move or most likely move in any of those lines, I would say. So many times black is just doing something else on the king side because this knight, I wouldn't say it's irrelevant. I mean, it's a full knight if you lose it, but okay, now there is e4, which is like very good, and after b takes, ed is kind of shutting down white's queen side, and this d pawn can also be used for attacking purposes. So yeah, black is much better. For example, if white would try to trade bishops, there is even c5. Some cases opening the long diagonal. The position is a disaster for white. So this c3 is just a bad line. Okay, so knight f3, bishop d6, castle, rook e1 is correct. Attacking on e5. So bishop g4, this is a rare move. f5 is the main move, allowing knight takes e5, and a lot of complications to follow. Again, originally this was the plan for the course, but the lines are simply too crazy, too long, and doesn't make that much sense, to be honest. So bishop g4 is much more manageable for a human, and the line is good, and it's very easy to go wrong with white. So my opponent went h3, bishop takes f3. Unfortunately, this has to be played. because bishop h5 would be really good, but after this, I believe this is the move, but maybe yeah, probably knight e5 is the move. Although it doesn't look that obvious to me. So take. The king looks somewhat open. Anyway, I don't remember the reason, but the point is that this g4 is the issue in general. So whether white takes here or just 95, I don't remember, but black doesn't seem to have enough in one of those lines. So bishop takes f3 is the line, and after queen f3, of course, the whole thing doesn't make any sense if black doesn't have e5, sorry, f5, but it does work. But again, the thing is that it's not obvious why it does work. In this game, you can see it was not obvious for white and even more so for black. So my opponent took on f5, I mean, which is the move to make, most likely. And I mean, it happened for me again in a few games, and I just didn't understand it. Why it is good to give up the pawn like this? And okay, instead of checking the course, I just kept on playing and getting into this position and not finding the correct move. Correct move is queen e7 here. Again, it's not particularly easy one to find. It's against bishop to e6 check, and black is threatening with g6. So that is the course. I played queen to g5. My opponent goes bishop e6, king h8. And I mean, it basically shows that the line is not so easy, that if white moves the queen in this position, then black is, I believe, winning already. So with so much better development and attack on the king, it is already a winning, would be a winning position, but white has this very nice move, bishop takes on d5. Um, Unfortunately, cd doesn't make too much sense because there is queen d5. And after rook takes on f3, there is bishop takes on f3. And yeah, since whole position of black was built to attack on the king side, if white is in time to finish development, the position is a disaster for black. So material is not awful, but you know, black should try to attack white's king, which looks impossible in this way. That would have been the refutation here. Instead, my opponent went queen g3. And again, so this position is not coming directly from the course, but I believe somewhat can be like an example. So black just went queen f6, bishop takes d5, and okay, after cd, I believe white is still okay, but there is e4. Even better, basically gaining one more huge tempo because queen has to guard now f2, queen e3, and cd5. And the position is losing, knight c4 is coming, bishop f4 is coming, d4 is coming, so there is not really a defense here. My opponent went rook f1. Okay, now the knight comes to e5, and yeah. Finally white is trying to do something with the queen side, but it's already the game is just ending in the other side of the board. I mean, he took and resigned at the same time, so I guess I just give a check here. King goes away, and I take the pawn. I win the queen, or queen g2. So that's how this game went. Yeah. Okay. So this guy is also, I believe, 2800 on chess.com. We played 2 games, and I believe both games he went knight c3, which is just not good. So if white is doing anything else than h3, black is already very good, in a very good shape. Knight c3 is too slow, black is playing f5. Knight takes, c takes. This is already worth the missing pawn, and black has a dangerous attack. So my opponent went bishop e2, e4. Knight d4, queen f6, easy moves, attacking pieces. He went c3, and I went queen h6, which is normal, I would say, but there is a much better move in this position. It was the time to bring back this knight to the game, and similarly to the previous game, the knight reaches e5. Maybe in this variation can even reach d3. And the point is that this trade is never good for white, because the f2 pawn is hanging, and obviously like threats like bishop h2 at some moment and so on is really bad. So yeah, knight c3, d3, knight e5 would have been better in this game, and then black has a big advantage. And in the last game which I brought, so we repeated, same opponent, we repeated the game. He went knight c3, f5, and okay, since he lost previous game, now he did not take on d5, he went bishop e2, which is normal, trying to improve. And okay, played knight f4 move, which is not bad, but there is better, and it's once again to push these pawns. So you can see many times that whatever other moves are available for black, to push these pawns is the way to go. And simply the reason is that now if knight d4, again this same motive, that the bishop on g4 is basically protected by the opening of the f file. So now knight f4 is very strong. So potentially there are 4 pieces attacking, and even after the trade, the four pieces remain, because now the rook joins. So now I would say queen g4 is the most logical move. Knight e4, I guess, doesn't do that much, because even if just moving away the bishop attacks the knight, and then queen h4 is coming, or queen d5. So queen g4 looks like the question, but black has h5. Very strong move, because now the queen has to go back to d1. So queen g3, I mean, just allows discovered checks. So queen d1, and okay, it's just an example line that black goes queen g5, g3, knight to h3, king to g2, rook to f2, and the game finishes like this. So it's very easy to collect such losses as white in this variation. So I played knight f4, and okay, later won, but it's already maybe not that interesting. Okay, so at this point I would like to show the line for which actually I did not have a game, which I mean, actually in the streams which I did a day or two ago I had, but even that one was not so relevant. So this is bishop e2, the old main line, which seems to be completely out of fashion, and the reason is very simple, that after h6 and knight f3, e4, black is doing extremely well. On knight e5, both bishop to d6 and bishop c5 are completely good. Bishop c5 is the course, and there are some really nice variations, I have to say. So like, for example, if white castles, which is the move, and queen d6, white already has to find d4 not to be in big trouble. You can find many nice variations in the course, how knight g4 and knight c4, two very common moves, are pretty much leading to losing, or at the very least much worse position for white rather, sorry. So yeah, that's the reason bishop e2 is not played that much. If white still wants to play bishop e2, then now making this awkward looking move knight h3 is a better try, with the point that e4 is not coming with the tempo, and bishop takes h3 this is an interesting line where I believe Fischer liked it with the white pieces somewhat. That the point is that white wants to castle, and without the light square bishop or black's light square bishop, the bishop goes to g2, and not so easy to attack in this way, in this variation. This is quite interesting, but in the course we recommend to go g5, but not with the usual idea. So of course the main point that white cannot castle. Yes, sorry. So white's idea is to castle here, play king h1 and knight g1 to bring back the knight like this, without exposing the knight to e4 tempo. Really, really strange, but if you are not moving pawns, that means you are also not creating weaknesses. It's a really, I would say, modern line, but it's not so modern. It's just interesting concept from white. But okay, we recommend g5. So basically there is no castle because the knight is trapped. So white makes a move like d3. And here, of course, after g5, the logical move is bishop g7, but the course is completely different. The bishop stays on f8 for the purpose that many times, even in this position, actually, after g4, bishop takes c5 is coming with a serious pressure on the f2 pawn. So again, I believe 1 or 2 games happened with this queen b6, if I am not mistaken, completely unexplored, but looks very decent for black. Okay, so this line is not played a lot, but I just wanted to show it. All right, so now I brought a couple of positions. First one is very easy, obviously. You can stop the video if you want, but I will not wait that much here. So this something very similar was already shown. So obviously not taking and helping white to organize the pieces a little bit, but the idea is to move the knight to d5 and open the way for the f pawn. And in case of d3, playing f5, knight c3, and black can even afford to make a move like g5 with some funny ideas of g4 and queen g3 f4 to trap this queen on g3. And yeah, this is just an impressive pawn structure for black with excellent attacking chances. Also, the knight is going to return in this line. Okay. Okay, so here I will stop for a second because this is not something which was. I mean, this is just a completely different position to everything what I showed today, but this is coming from one of the lines. So the question is how to play it with the black. Okay, so it's somewhat surprising solution from one side to the other and then back to the other side. So if black would play something like queen e4, I believe after king f2 things are not so clear. But black has this very nice move of taking the pawn on g2. Very surprising. So it's a check, bishop takes on g2, and now the queen moves to h4, giving a check. The king goes to f1, and now gets a check from the other side. There is only one square available g1, and the king actually looks pretty safe, but after the move of rook d8, suddenly it becomes clear that the queen doesn't really have any good squares. So it will allow queen e1, queen d4, or one of these extremely unpleasant checks which are decisive. The attack also cannot really be blocked because queen d4 is finishing the game. So yeah, so this is kind of a nice line. And okay, one more idea which happens in some lines. Obviously here, if you look at the position, it's already obvious that black is attacking very seriously. White plays c3, and there are different options for black to continue the attack, like queen to h6, knight to f4 are, normal moves, but there is also an idea which is good to know. It's bishop to h3. So basically with the point that if the bishop is taken, then after queen f4, now g3 is not coming, but the mate is coming from h2. So it is just a nice move to play this bishop h3, and in case white ignores the bishop with d3, queen g6, e3, and if nothing better, then obviously taking the exchange is fine, but again, material is definitely not the most important in this line, so a move like e3 is even probably stronger. So if white ever takes this pawn, he gets a sacrifice on g3, and yeah, otherwise this pawn is pretty unpleasant on e3. All right, so this is it. Thanks a lot for watching this, whether in the classroom or in YouTube. If you have questions or comments, just please write those. Probably this was the last session which was like done live, because I have something unexpected to do next week, so I cannot really plan this, but I would like to add two more classrooms. I will record those at some moment, maybe even today, I don't know, and then later upload to YouTube. So it will be basically a 10-part series, like just showing what is the course about, what are the lines, what are my online games, and such things. So yeah, so okay, thank you very much, and hope to see you somewhere in the forums or in YouTube, or yeah, I don't know where in the future. So thank you, and see you everyone.